Hi, my name is Emily and this is Made on Mill. In this video, I will be showing you how to make your own dried floral wreath. Now, if you are wanting to get away from purchasing a wreath every year, or perhaps you are looking for a plastic-free option, this is an excellent zero waste DIY and it's completely free if you have access to a garden or even some weeds. Most of these are weeds that I picked on my parents' property. Now at the end of the season, or when you're done using your wreath, you can simply take it apart and put it in the compost or your yard waste. It's completely compostable, which is awesome. I won't be using any glue. Now, for some of them, I am going to be using chicken wire so that I have more space to insert the stems into, but you can simply just take all your foliage off your wreath and then remove your chicken wire before you put it in your yard waste or compost. Now I am starting with pre-formed wreaths that my mother and I have made over the years. We reuse them all the time. They are simply made from grapevine, and then we kind of twist them into a circular shape and then take another grapevine and wind that around the circle shape to secure it. If you want a more dense looking wreath, then I suggest starting with a denser looking wreath base. So you'll want a lot of grapevine heavily twisted together and then heavily wrapped together. If you're looking for something a little more minimalist, then this is where you can get away with minimal twisting. Let's talk about finding your foliage and your flowers. So there are some flowers that dry awesome and some that are not going to dry very well. So if you have a particular flower in mind, I suggest doing a quick Google search to see if that dries really well. Or another tip I have when creating your wreaths and looking for things to dry, look for seed heads. So a lot of your flowers and shrubs will have seed heads once the blooms are spent. And these already tend to be a little bit dry to start, so you know they're gonna hold their structure, which is going to look great on the wreath. A lot of the species that I have picked are wild or considered weeds, but they are important pollinators. So you can wait until some of them have gone to seed, so they're no longer a use to the pollinators. So that is another option, is just taking a little and not a lot. So what I mean by this is when you find a patch, try to take less than 10%. And then if you find multiple patches, take a little bit from each patch rather than clearing out an entire section. Now, if you're thinking, oh, this is great, but I didn't plant any great flowers, what ones should I plant for next year that are great for drying? I love, love, love drying amaranth. Another great thing to include in this to create a textural element is thistles. So their seed heads are really great. You can also collect them when they are still blooming to preserve some of that color. Another note in terms of picking wild flora, I want you to be really conscious of the species that you are picking. So if anything is a keystone species, I suggest that you don't pick it. So we all know that the monarch butterfly depends on milkweed, and so I suggest that you don't pick species such as this because they are so heavily relied on by other species for their life cycle. Other plant and flower species may be poisonous, so you will need to thoroughly do your research before you start picking. If you are unsure about any of the plants you are picking, please don't pick it and stick to a garden. I also recommend that you stick to your own garden or private property that you are allowed onto. Please do not trespass or pick from parks. Once you have picked your foliage and flowers, it's time to wash them. So I like to fill up a big bowl of water and then fully submerge the leafy or floral parts of my cut flowers or foliage in the water, and this is to remove any debris or bugs. Before you do this, I really suggest giving them a good shake before you submerge them, in case there are bugs. Hopefully we can get them off before we submerge them, but if you find some bugs in the water, you can easily pick them out. Once they are fully submerged and cleaned, you can give them a shake. Now, I suggest letting these dry off a little bit before bringing them into your house. This is a good time to clear off any extra foliage or leaves that are on your flowers that you're not interested in preserving. This makes the drying process a little bit quicker. Once they are washed, you will gather them into fistfuls and then secure the end. So you can either do this by using cotton yarn or twine, but I like to use elastics, kind of like how a florist would secure the ends of a bouquet. And so I use elastics that have come on food items in our home. And then you will just wrap this around the ends of the stems and then use that to hang it up. Now, when you go to hang it up, the direction in which you hang these is how they are going to dry. So oftentimes we dry things hanging from the stem, so the florals are hanging downwards, and then that way when we go to flip them right side up, they stay upright. Now, if you are wanting to add some drape to yours, you could manipulate them into certain shapes that you want to dry them into. Now, going back to the seed heads, since we have picked these when they are already pretty well very dry, I don't wash these. I don't dunk them. I just give them a good shake and then secure them. I still go through the drying process with them just to make sure that all the moisture has left. Now let's talk about the drying process. So once you have secured the ends of your stems, you will go ahead and find a spot in your home to dry these. I do not recommend drying these in a shed or exterior building because it's not climate controlled. So ideally you're doing this in your house where you have some control over the climate. You will want somewhere with a low moisture level because we are trying to dry these out. So long as there is good airflow, you should be fine. I did some of these in our basement. Now, our basement is an unfinished crawl space. There is a little portion of it that you can walk into, but it's completely unfinished, so it can be a little bit moist, but we have a dehumidifier, which really helps. Now, the benefit of this basement is it's completely dark, and a low light situation is important when you're drying your flowers or your foliage for two reasons. If you are picking your flowers and you like this stage at which they are bloomed, you're thinking they're open now, I want to preserve that, I love it. Making sure that you have low light means that they won't continue to bloom or move on to the next stage of their life where they're starting to develop seeds. So that's important if you want to maintain the structure of your florals. Now, another reason low light is important is to preserve color. So if you're drying these in the sun, there is opportunity for them to become a little bit diluted in terms of their color or bleached from the sun. Now, if you want your flowers to become lighter or shrivel up, or it depends on the look you're going, then yes, definitely dry those in the light, but a low light situation is great. So I dry some of mine in the basement and then some other ones in our dining room. The lower half of our dining room is painted green, and it is quite a dark corner. It doesn't get any direct sunlight. So I consider this a okay environment to dry out my flowers. Before you begin working on your wreath, I suggest holding your wreath up with one hand and kind of seeing where it naturally wants to sit. So there may be portions of your wreath that are a bit heavier than other sections, and so those sections should kind of sit at the bottom. Now, if you have a portion of your wreath that you really want to work in, or you have a portion you want at the top, then you may need to counterbalance this, or if you're hanging it, just secure your bowl really well so that your wreath cannot move within the ribbon. Okay, to get started, we will take our wreath base and lie that out. Now, if you are looking to do something color coordinated or you have an idea in mind, you'll also want to pull out those dried florals and foliage that are going to go with your design. So once you have your wreath base and your dried florals, you can go ahead and start inserting the stems either directly into your wreath base, and this works well if you have a more dense wreath base. Now, if you don't, you can add chicken wire like I am doing for some of these, and then you can insert your stems directly into that chicken wire. Now, if you want to make a more full wreath, you are going to need to start inserting your stems either in a clockwise or counterclockwise fashion. So that is one way to do it. Another way to do it is simply pick a starting point, either the top or the bottom of your wreath, and working your way outwards from there. Now, for my more minimalist wreaths, I will pick a point and then work outwards. So it's super easy when we are decorating our wreath to just be looking at it straight on and not considering that it is a round shape. So you may want to consider adding some of your stems kind of on the inside of the wreath and the outside of the wreath. Obviously, you want to keep the back free since that will be sitting against a flat surface, but this is another way to make sure your wreath looks full and looks really great from all angles. The more and more you put together the wreath, the better you are going to get. This is an excellent way to create a truly unique wreath that no one else has, and it's not mass produced. Now, in terms of hanging your wreath, there are a few options. There are over the door wreath hooks. Now, I know that these aren't recommended. It does possibly could damage your door and doesn't allow the door to seal fully, so I'll leave that up to you. You can also use command hooks and put those on like the window section of your door. You can hang the wreath directly onto a hook, or you can also add some sort of decorative ribbon and then hang it that way. The back of the wreath may scratch the surface, so please be very aware of that. If you are worried about this, I suggest adding like sticking on some foam or some felt to the back of your wreath so that it doesn't scratch your surface. Now, keep in mind this will make it not compostable, but you can always remove that before you dispose of your wreath. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really loved putting together these wreaths. I think I look forward to it all year long, especially when I'm planting my garden. I'm thinking, oh, what flowers can I plant and then proceed to dry. So this is my first batch of drying florals. I will probably be drying a few more later this fall, kind of before our last frost date. I really want to enjoy the flowers in the garden while they're blooming, but I will certainly be picking some more to dry, and then I will likely put together another video doing a winter themed wreath. So stay tuned for that if you enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoyed this video or found it inspirational or helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, or share this video. Have a wonderful day.